the real reason you're not getting better or ranking up in Overwatch. And I know it's the reason because people time and time again are coming into my live stream and asking the same question. This problem is unique because it's really only in games like Overwatch. Let's get into this and you're going to be an expert at ranking up by the end of this video. Let's begin with that question people are asking me. Does a certain hero work at this rank? And the reality is, it's all about counterplay. They'll say something like, oh, is Soldier 76 viable all the way at grandmaster level? And I'll say, yeah, if they have a flyer, if there's something that actually is good for hit scan, absolutely. It's all situational. They'll say something like, what is the best tank to use to rank up? And obviously it's Junker Queen right now, but asking if a certain hero can work at a certain level. And I'll say it yet again, it's all about counterplay. What does the enemy team have? What plays well into whatever their composition is? Some heroes are definitely better at some ranks than others. For instance, you probably don't want to run something like Tracer, you know, a very mechanical hero at the low ranks like silver or gold. However, in the higher ranks, I'd say diamond and up, Tracer is amazing. It just depends on where you are, but it's really mainly about counterplay. Counterplay is at the core of Overwatch 2. That is more important than being mechanically better than someone. For instance, on both teams, you're playing Symmetra. The Symmetra versus Symmetra battle doesn't really matter who's better. What would be more effective than that would be going something like Pharah or Cassidy, standing a little too far out of range, Ashe, whatever is a counter to Symmetra. That does so much better than just being better than the hero they're choosing. That wins games more often than being better than the enemy team, as silly as that sounds. And it's going to take a while to learn all of the counterplay. That's what really makes Overwatch players good, is adaptability and knowing what to do when. People who don't play Overwatch that much, they just want to be really, really good at a certain character. In reality, unless you're at grandmaster level, you probably cannot get away with one-tricking a single hero. If you are at a high masters or grandmasters level, have fun, do whatever you want. But most of us got to work on our counterplay. Next, let's dive into this topic. I know you've heard this one before. Oh, that hero takes no skill. I can't believe you're using that. That is such a low rank mentality. I know a lot of people that have that mindset, but honestly, this is not about how skillful are you at using that hero, but what actually matters more is how adaptable are you. That's the most important thing. And that's what so many players fail to realize. That's what makes this game so unique and so loved by so many. It's not about the raw skills someone has. Someone is much more effective playing 4 different heroes at a moderately good level than someone that's just stuck on one hero trying to play that at a really high level. It doesn't matter how good that person is, you're just going to be able to counter them with your heroes. Then what are they going to do? So honestly, who cares about how skillful a hero is? I promise no one in the high ranks cares about how skillful a hero is to use. They're concerned if they have the right team composition. That's it, because they want to win. If you ever hear someone saying, oh, that hero takes no skill, I think you might know what rank they are. Definitely not a very high one. Good players are not concerned with this. Although I promise everyone will tell you they are a good player. Apparently, everybody's a grandmaster in the comments section. So now you might be asking, so whose job is it to counter the enemies? Does DPS counter everything? Does tank counter everything? Does the DPS just counter other DPS? And does tank just counter tank? I mean, there's a lot of questions here. Let's dive into that. So yes, there's lots of common ones where DPS will counter other DPS and DPS can counter tank. Tank can counter other DPS as well as the other tank. I mean, think about this. Reaper versus Winston. That one's a different role, yet they counter each other. What about Roadhog versus Winston? There's lots of options here. But think about this scenario. Let's say they have a Winston and you want to go Reaper to counter that Winston. But they also have a Pharah and an Echo. You're not really going to be very effective at shooting either of those with a Reaper, yet you have to be able to be effective killing the tank. That's a scenario where you have to be more adaptable and say what would be effective against all of these. For the DPS, maybe you go Cassidy or Torb. Torb for the turret hit scan for the flyers, and then Cassidy for the hit scan nonetheless, but you can fan fire when he jumps in, you can nade him. There's lots of good options. It's not just one versus the other. And maybe your tank could go Roadhog, Junker Queen to have a lot of firepower for right after Winston jumps, or what could be even better, which counters Winston as well, which is D.Va. So whenever Winston jumps away, you can chase, but not only that, D.Va's great for those flyers. And I know you guys will tell me, oh my god, you could have done this against the Winston and the flyers. There's a million different options you can use. That's my point. Finding and figuring out these different compositions are what really separates amazing players from moderately good ones. Also, you can't do all this counterplay on your own. The best thing to do is to try to get some of your teammates to play alongside with you. This team composition matters because if you're all alone doing your own thing, they're all alone doing their own thing, even if you're countering, it's not going to work out. What you want to do is counterplay together. Talk about your strategies because it's a very team-driven game, as much as they want to pretend like it's your fault. And if they're not going to do that, well, you might lose the game because of it. It's very possible. Elo hell is very real. I've talked about Elo hell and what to do to get out of it in one of my previous videos. Go check that out. The last thing I want to touch on here is the support players. Now, counterplay is way less important for this role, although it very much does exist. I would say a lot of you all need to be focusing on what works well with your team. To be honest, you all should probably be picking your hero last, according to what everyone else on your team picks. That's the best and smartest way to build a team comp. For instance, in a game like Push, you probably don't want to have two up-close healers. Definitely one like Kiriko or Moira, where you can just run right up next to the team, help do damage with them, but you probably want another one that can sit on the robot and can do distance healing or damage like Baptiste or Ana. The point is, you don't want to be the one to stay on a hero. You want to switch according to what your team has. But counterplay is much less important on the support heroes, that's for sure. I totally understand there are situations that you're countering on support. For instance, the Kiriko for the purple of Ana. Just make sure you're really enabling the people that are trying to counter the enemy team so you can win. Yeah, sometimes you got to do extra damage. I totally get that. But make sure you enable them. That's important. A lot of support players don't trust the rest of their team to get the job done, whether that be tanking or DPSing, so they try to do it themselves. And yes, sometimes you definitely should and have to do that. But when counterplay comes into effect, a lot of the time, if you just heal the shit out of the soldier, he'll kill the Pharah. I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope this really helps in your games if you're struggling. Remember, counterplay is one of the most important things in all of Overwatch. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and go check out one of these videos now. The algorithm really thinks you'll like it.